All right, let's motor back to the Motor City, shall we? And hear from the radio analyst for your Portland Trail Blazers. He rocks the bow tie like no other these days. He's none other than Antonio Harvey. Tone, what's cracking back in Detroit?
Oh, nothing, guys. Just watched a little Monday Night Football. Just came from a movie. Went to see Interstellar. Highly recommended.
Oh.
Highly recommended.
Is that
really
right?
Good movie.
Did you see it in IMAX or?
No, the movie theater we had would be considered low max. It was, I don't think it held more than like 30 people max. So no, definitely not an IMAX theater. It was,
okay.
Yeah, it was,
You went to the juke joint.
It was for real. Hey, Mike, I was shocked. I don't think I've ever seen a movie theater that small, or at least not since I was like 10 years old. It was actually kind of comical.
So, Tone, I just got to ask the obvious question. I'm looking at your schedule, and you play the Knicks in New York, and then you have a day off or a day in between games in Detroit. Tell me you didn't go to Detroit last night in the middle of the night. Tell me you stayed over in New York.
No, sir. No, sir. Got on the plane, got into Detroit. We got in about 1 o'clock, so it wasn't that bad. It's only like an hour and 20 minutes between the two cities on the airplane. So it wasn't that bad. Got in at a reasonable hour, man. The problem I run into is as soon as I touch down, I go to watching movies and videos on YouTube, and it's 5 o'clock in the morning before I actually ever hit the bed.
Interstellar. I'm writing it down right now.
Interstellar or Interstellar?
Interstellar. It's Matthew McConaughey. Man, it's a really good movie. It was an impressive movie. I didn't know it was going to be that good. I was thoroughly impressed with it, though.
Is Matthew McConaughey the dude from the Dallas
Buyers Club? Yeah.
All right, okay.
Dallas.
Yeah, he lost about 50 pounds for that role, maybe more.
Yeah, and then he was also in the HBO special True Detectives, another great series, by the way.
No question.
Okay.
Hey, Tom, before we get to talking basketball, we're going to be running a feature on you about I prefaced it by talking about your bow tie collection and how you're rocking a new one each and every game of the year. Holton and I, in your honor, are going to be donning a bow tie
for
Friday for a segment.
Yeah.
We just need a visual on how to tie the bow tie. Is there any key? Is there a trick to it? What do we need to know about tying a bow tie?
I'll tell you, the best way to practice, first of all, go to YouTube and get a video.
Okay,
That's the easiest thing to do.
Okay.
Secondly, and this just makes it so simple, try tying your shoes while you're looking in a mirror.
Okay.
So it's because it's the same motion as tying a shoe, that same bunny hop round the corner thing that we were taught as kids.
Right.
The exact same motion, but you do it opposite. You have to do it while looking in the mirror back at your neck. So I always recommend to people, if you can figure out how to tie your shoe looking in the mirror, you can figure out how to do a bow tie. It's almost the exact same thing.
So, Tone, I just want you to know, man, how much I have reverence and respect for you, because I have never tied a bow tie around my own neck in my entire life. And so when I was approached about this, my first response was,
Heck no.
absolutely not. I am enraged at the thought. And then I said, but that's my man. That's my man. So I'm going to go ahead and give it a shot.
Hey, man, I appreciate it, too. And I want you guys to keep those bow ties. I talked to my guys at Boyer and Fletcher, and they want to make sure you guys are taken care of. So keep the bow ties. I think, you know what, I started rocking them, and then I found a company in Portland that was willing to support my idea of wearing 82 bow ties in 82 games. And it's been wonderful ever since. And I haven't even really delved into the collection yet. The second half of the season is going to be even hotter than the first half been so far.
So do you have any crushed velvet bow ties?
Man, I'll tell you what, Michael Holton, if you told me that you wanted a crushed velvet bow tie, I'll get you a crushed velvet bow tie, and I'll get one to match. That's how into the bow tie thing we are in terms of what we're trying to get accomplished. And, you know, the other thing, guys, we haven't really talked about it as far as what's going to happen with the bow ties that I've worn. Every one of them is going to be donated to a charity.
Oh, nice.
And we're going to build a couple of collages with some of them, so that, you know, you can have like 16 or 17. We've got ties that are special for, let's see, one of them was breast cancer awareness. We did one for Veterans, or was it not Veterans Day, but I think it was Veterans Day.
We'll ask Curry. We'll ask Curry.
Yes, but we've done one We've got one coming for Black History Month. We've got one coming for MLK Day. I've got several Christmas ties. And we're going to put them in collages over the course of the season. So, charities out there that want to try to auction them off. I don't know how much money they'll be worth, but, trying to do what I can.
We're going to try to get bow ties trending in Portland tonight with all this bow tie talk.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So let's talk about just rebounding now.
Hey, let's talk about LaMarcus, Tone, moving up the franchise list, 6 points away from, surpassing Terry Porter for second all-time in scoring in Trailblazers history. This is cause for celebration, obviously, but L.A. is he's so doggone steady in his approach. What is his legacy right now, Tone, to this point through his 9 seasons in the NBA?
Ooh. One of the greatest at his position. I think you got to look at him as, and when I say greatest, I think it's a relative term. Mm-hmm. Certainly one of the greatest to ever put on a Trailblazers uniform, but I think his numbers are going to speak for themselves. Outside of guys like Karl Malone, who played 100 years, L.A. relative to his numbers is going to be one of the best power forwards to ever play the game of basketball. And, you look at the number of power forwards that have been in the league. If there's 1,000 of them, he'll be in the top 50. That's a huge and significant number right there. So for me, I think his legacy is going to be as one of the greatest trailblazers, maybe the greatest trailblazer ever, and possibly one of the greatest power forwards in the history of the game.
You spend a lot of time around him also, Tone, and you're on the road trips with him and all this. Do you get a sense from talking with L.A., and obviously he's a free agent after the season, there's all kinds of talk that he says and he wants to be back as a Trailblazer, but do you see him wanting to become the greatest Trailblazer ever?
Absolutely. If you would have asked me that 9 years ago when he came into the league, I would have questioned it. I would have wondered if he was motivated by money or if he was motivated by external things. But being around him, the number of years that I have and the amount of time that I've been able to be around him, I'm beginning to see more and more that he is internally motivated. And anytime your motor comes from within, it keeps burning and burning and burning because nobody can take it away. And that's where LaMarcus is right now. He has an internal motor to be the best ever. And I think that's his motivation. And that's why I'm not concerned about him switching teams. That right. And the fact that when I mentioned it to him, his response was, well, when I sign my contract this summer, not if, not I might, but when I do it. And I said, oh, well, there you go. He's already thinking that way.
Tony, let me ask you a couple questions about L.A.'s development. We're talking about legacy and his place, and it's going to be interesting because his game has kind of evolved from when he came in the league to now, from stretch forward to power forward to now you get a sprinkling of both. His game is really expanding. So I want you to speak on that, and then also I want you to speak on his leadership because on the court, it's been noticeable. He's comfortable being a closer at the end of games. He's more comfortable in the huddle, and he's also more vocal.
Well, Mike, it's funny. People, and you're right, on the outside, his game has evolved. It's much different than it was when he arrived here 9 years ago. But on the inside, if you really think about it, it hasn't changed that much. And the only reason I can say that is because I came into the league not as talented, but similar in build to LaMarcus. He came into the league 6'11", 216, 220 pounds at the most. He couldn't bang even if he wanted to. Mm-hmm. And guys pushed him out so far on the floor that he had to develop a jump shot in order to be successful. As the years have gone on, he went from 220 to 235, from 235 to 250, from 250 to 260. Now, the guys who used to push him out on the floor because they had the advantage of weight can't push him out anymore. He has the advantage. And I've watched him punish big men in the league now. In fact, Samuel Dallenberg last night thought he had him, and L.A. hits that outside shoulder so hard that it turns you and gives him a lane right into the paint. So for me, you're absolutely right. He has evolved. But I think the evolution came from him putting on some weight and being able to do the things he was more comfortable with. As far as him being a leader on the court, I think that has everything to do with the team allowing him to be that and letting him know this is what we expect of you. It's no longer acceptable for you not to take this role. And he's accepted it. He's flourished with it. I think he's having a good time with it.
That was child's play last night with Dallenberg and Quincy Acey. Was it not? I mean, let's be honest.
But you know what? We say that. We say it was child's play with Acey and Dallenberg. But it's child's play with everybody. Yeah. Think about what he did to the Houston Rockets last year in the first, not just, well, I guess you could start with the first two, but that entire season, he had 40 points both of the first two games on the road against Dwight Howard. Killed them.
Right.
So it's everybody.
Antonio Harvey, Blazers radio analyst, joining us from Detroit. Tone, I want to ask you, in your time around this team, have you seen a team that plays with more unselfishness than this current crop of Trailblazers? We're talking 20 games, all 20 of them. They've had 20 or more assists. There's no egos. They want to do what is best for the team, and that's evident each and every night that we watch them out there on the floor.
No, first and foremost, I've never been around a team more unselfish than this. But, Mike, I go back to my days, my last few years in the league, and I'm playing here in Portland, and we had Scottie Pippen and Steve Smith and all of these all-stars on the roster, and we were extremely talented, but we weren't as cohesive as this unit. I honestly think this unit would play that team very tough because we would go out and we'd have a bunch of all-stars. They would just play together.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I like about what you're highlighting, and it gives me an opportunity now to piggyback and highlight is this team is more concerned about the name on the front of the jersey than the name that's on the back of the jersey. And you don't always get that with teams, and you really don't get that always with NBA teams.
Hey, Mike, tell me this. Watching this team play, how proud would Coach Wooden be of the way these guys come out and execute every night?
Oh, I mean, he would be proud. And anybody that is a basketball purist or appreciates the game can recognize that this team is unselfish and that this team defends collectively. There is no weak link or head turner on this team defensively. And when you see the fortified fort of the defense, you understand the unselfishness of the offense.
Man, you know what? That is a great way to put it. When you can look at the way that defense plays, it explains why the offense is so good. And while we're talking about the defense and guys, just the way this team is designed, how about Alan Crabb? Hey, this is a guy who didn't play at all last year, wasn't looked at to be a rotation guy. Coach Stotts throws him out there because he's got some injuries, and AC doesn't do anything other than step up, make shots when he's supposed to, and play defense like he's been around the league for a long time.
I love that, and I hope that Crabb is still part of the rotation once C.J. McCollum comes back here in a couple weeks. That would be ideal. And I imagine, from your standpoint, you would think he would still be part of that rotation, correct?
I can't see a reason not to.
Sure.
There's still not an established small forward in the rotation, so I think you could look at AC and C.J. McCollum as guys who could play together at the 2 and the 3.
A couple more questions for Antonio Harvey as he's joining us from Detroit tonight, where the Blazers getting ready to take on the Pistons tomorrow. If you're to look at one area of this team that is different from last year to this year, I know will probably be the defensive side of the ball, but what area, Tone, to you, have the Blazers really excelled at this season so far through the first 20 games?
Oh, man, the defense, you're right, it's the easiest thing to point out, and I definitely think that's a big part of it. But I really feel like the cohesiveness of the unit, they were good being together last year, and as tight as they were, I go back to that, and you can't win games in this league unless you play together. That is so much bigger than individual talent. When you can have 5 guys or 10 guys or 15 guys that are willing to lay their egos aside and play basketball for each other, that gives you a chance to win. And my brother, who played 14 years in the NFL, he called me
with the Raiders,
the other
by the
night.
way. Just want to throw that out there.
Who just beat the 41ers.
Yeah.
That's a conversation for a different day. He called me about 6 games into the season because he had a chance to see the Blazers play. He said, hey, man, I have watched enough basketball to know you guys have a chance to do something special with this team as it's constructed right now.
Wow.
And this is a guy who's played on some championship caliber team. He played with the Bills when they were really good. He played with the Raiders when they were really good. He's seen championship personalities. He said this team has a championship personality. Richard
Harvey, just laying down the gauntlet. I love it.
Hey, if you're going to step up big, right?
well, we know this. Defensively, they've improved greatly, but let's be honest, the meat of the schedule still yet to come for the Trailblazers. A couple games against the Spurs coming up, one against the Rockets, but right now at 16-4, let's enjoy what we've got, and let's see this evolve, as the season goes on, Tone.
Absolutely. I'm not saying it's a championship team yet, and that's what he said. He said this team has a chance to do something special, and I agree with that. It may not be this year, but if we can keep this core together and the NBA through its collective bargaining agreement and through this new TV deal, puts the Blazers in a chance to keep this team together long term. I definitely see some specialness coming.
They've got the ingredients. No question about it. Tone, love it. Thank you for joining us. Do appreciate it here on Trailblazers Courtside.
Nah, guys, thanks for having me on. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, sounds good. Antonio Harvey joining us from somewhere in Detroit. Top secret location, just like he probably just passed the phone off to Triano, right? Or Triano passed it to him.
I doubt that they're together.